Good evening and welcome to our STS-133 mission status briefing. With us tonight, we're happy again to have the lead flight director for the International Space Station Control Team, Royce Renfrew, and the lead spacewalking officer, Art Thomason, with us. We'll start out as usual with some opening comments from the two gentlemen, and then we'll move on to your questions. Royce?
Thanks, sir. So another excellent day on orbit for the 133 ULF-5 team executing the second EVA of the mission. I was very pleased at where we got to with this EVA. We got through all of our nominal activities and knocked off a whole bunch of get-aheads that we were hoping to be able to do on this mission. I'll let Art give you all the details of the activities that we did. But I was very pleased with where we got to at the end of the day. I started out the day a little bit behind the schedule because we had a problem with Bowen's suit with a seal in one of his LiO canisters, and we did a quick IFM in the airlock there with Mike Barrett and Paulo, replaced that seal and put that back in, got a good leak check, and got both crew out the door. It was another outstanding job again by Mike Barrett and Scott Kelly operating the arm with Steve Bowen riding it for the majority of the EVA, and we ended the mission with we ended the day rather with the big arm, the SSRMS, in the undock config, which is a real milestone for me because that means we're essentially done with all of the space station robotics for this mission. Obviously, after Discovery undocks, we still have a couple more surveys to do with the shuttle arm on their way in, but as far as big arm ops are concerned, we're done with that. We had a little bit also of a hiccup at the end of the mission with Al Drew's helmet cam. His helmet lights came off the top of his EMU. We got Steve over there to help try to put that back on. We spent a little bit of time troubleshooting that. We were almost at the end of the activities for both crew anyway, so we made the decision just to tether the helmet lights to Al's suit and send him back to the airlock while Steve went out to take care of one more get-ahead activity, and then we were done with the EVA for the day. But all in all, just a great day on orbit and an excellent EVA too for the entire team. Inside the IVA tasks, we're still pushing along even while the crew was out executing the EVA. We accomplished all of the tasks that we hope to do today with the IVA crew in the permanent multipurpose module. We essentially cleaned out the aisleway, moved all the stuff that was hanging off the front of the rack to its locations where we're temp snowing it, moved a lot of that stuff to the end cone, put it behind the bungee jail there, and also got the extra equipment that came up with Robonaut, as well as the Robonaut torso in the packing crate it came up in, moved that into the lab. So then tomorrow on orbit, we're going to go take the carbon dioxide removal assembly bed that we brought up in the mid deck of the orbiter and install that in the Seadra in the Node 3 rack because of the +1 day that we decided to go ahead and take care of that. And we'll activate the Node 3 Seadra tomorrow afternoon and let it run for the rest of the mission. And then the crew also has a half day off tomorrow, a well-deserved half day off tomorrow, and they'll spend some time relaxing with all crew members taking a half day off after their midday meal. So like I said, I'll let Art give you all the details of the activities that we did today. So up to you, Art.
Okay, thanks, Royce. I'd like to start out by congratulating Steve, Al, Nicole, and Mike on another outstanding EVA today. Today's EVA was 6 hours and 14 minutes in duration. That puts Steve in 6th place on the all-time list for time EVA. He now has accumulated 47 hours and 18 minutes. With Al's 2 EVAs on this mission, he's accumulated 12 hours and 48 minutes. On today's EVA, we had quite a few small tasks, so there's a lot to keep track of, especially with the SSRMS going on again. But the crew, again, did an outstanding job. The first task was to stow an APFR outside a portable foot restraint. This restraint was brought in on EVA-1. A heat shield was removed so it could fit in all the worksite interfaces on the outside of station, was then stowed outside of station for use on future EVAs. From there, Al headed over to the failed pump module. He did a quick inspection on the vent tool and vent tool extender. Everything looked great. We were concerned before the CVA about a kink in the line. He inspected that. There was no significant damage, so we were go to vent. He then threw the bail on the vent tool, which allowed the 10 pounds of ammonia in the pump module to be vented. Once that was complete, he worked on some troubleshooting for the J1 electrical connector that we had trouble with on EVA1. I was able to get a good mate on that, so no contingency tie-down plan was required. We're in a good configuration to now bring this pump module home on 135. From there, Al stowed the vent tool and vent tool extender and a bag that's now stowed on top of the airlock, its nominal home. Steve, meanwhile, was working on Columbus, where he got on the end of the arm and picked up the lightweight adapter plate assembly, or LWAPA. This is part of an experiment that was brought up on 123, now returning home with some of the data that was collected, and now back in the payload bay thanks to Steve on the arm and Mike running the arm. From there, Al translated out to the starboard end of the truss, where he removed the Expeka MLI from Express Logistics Carrier number 4. Now that Express Logistics Carrier number 4 is on station, this thermal blanket is no longer required. That was removed. While he was in the area, we had noticed earlier in the day that a cover on the camera that they worked on yesterday, where they installed the lens, had twisted a little bit. So Al went over there, using his hand, was able to turn that cover back into place, so the view was no longer obstructed on that camera. From there, Steve continued on the arm. He installed a camera on Dexter. This now completes the outfitting for Dexter. Dexter is equipped with 2 cameras. One final task on Dexter was for Steve to remove the EP blanket. This is an electronics platform blanket that's no longer required. This was used for launch. Now that SPDM is operational on orbit, this blanket is no longer needed. From there, Al then removed jettison stowage bags that were left outside on the pump module EVAs when the failed pump module was changed out. These were used to cover some fluid quick disconnects for thermal protection. Those were then brought back inside. Then Al went back to the airlock. We had him get an O2 recharge to charge his tanks up to make sure he had plenty of oxygen to complete all the tasks on this EVA. He then headed out to the port side of the truss, where he installed the P3 CETA light. This light illuminates the solar alpha rotary joint. He then headed up and reinstalled a booty that had come out of place before. We anticipated that the Velcro may be bad due to atomic oxygen, but Al was able to reconnect the Velcro, and he did not have to put any extra restraints on it to keep it in place. From there, Al went on to do some troubleshooting on the P1 radiator grapple stow beams. These beams stow a grapple fixture that's used to hold the radiator in case it needs to be removed and replaced someday. These beams were installed on an earlier mission, and they weren't as secure as we had liked. Al went through a series of troubleshooting steps, but in the end, it turned out that by applying higher torque, he was able to get the beams nice and secure. From there, Al translated over to Node 3, where he removed thermal insulation blanket, also no longer required. Steve then translated to Dexter and to the POA, and this is POA is an end effector that's up on the mobile transporter. In both of those locations, he installed lens covers that protect these cameras from the plume of visiting vehicles. From there, Steve worked a couple of get-aheads. He removed a portable foot restraint, put it in a location that's preferable for a future mission. He then headed out to the Strela adapter. This is a Russian tool that's relocated from PMA-3 over back to the Russian segment. And about that time, when Al was finishing up removing the thermal blanket from Node 3, he did have the issue that Royce had mentioned, where his WVS, or wireless video system, and helmet lights became disconnected. It was still connected via the power cable. So Steve tried to go over there, get it secured into place. It's something that's extremely difficult to do in the bulky EVA gloves. At that point, Al tethered it back, and we had completed all of our nominal tasks and then some at that point. Al translated back to the airlock. We got him in a good configuration. Steve finished up by installing the Strela adapter over on the Russian segment, grabbed a bag, and both crew members headed in for another great EVA. And with that, I'll turn it back over to the moderator for questions.
Thanks a lot, Art. So we'll start here at Johnson Space Center. Please remember to state your name and affiliation before your question, and we do have one reporter on the phone bridge as well. So start off with Mark.
Hey, thank you very much, Mark Carreau for Aviation Week and Space Technology. Could you sort of update us on the Russian CO2 repair work and kind of where they stand, and whether that plus the Seadra operation would have any impact on the extra day as you see it now?
Okay, let me answer the second question first. The Russian piece of equipment called Vozduk, which is essentially a piece of hardware that scrubs CO2 out of the breathable atmosphere, like our carbon dioxide removal assembly, the Seadra we keep talking about. So our Russian friends, the cosmonauts, have been in the service module for the last couple days, going through a rather extensive in-flight maintenance activity on Vozduk, and they accomplished all of their tasks today. And it is my expectation that tomorrow we'll be able to get Vozduk back up and running. Hopefully it's just about the same time as we get Seadra in Node 3 up and running, so we'll have all of the CO2 scrubbing capability of the ISS stack going at the same time. If for whatever reason we can't get Vozduk up and running, or if we have problems getting the Node 3 Seadra up and running, that will not actually impact the +1 day at all. We've plotted it out. We've got plenty of margin for being able to scrub CO2 using the shuttle assets and using the lab Seadra. We're also using the MEDOX containers in the airlock that the crew normally uses when they're in their EVA camp out the night before an EVA. When they're secluded from the rest of the station, we have 2 MEDOX canisters in there that scrub the atmosphere for that volume. And what we've been doing in the interim here while the airlock hatch is opening is we've inserted MEDOX canisters in that scrubber to help scrub the ISS atmosphere as well. And then on top of that, we have LIO canisters that we can use in the Russian segment, and we have LIO canisters that we can use in the U.S. segment if we need to, but we shouldn't. So whether or not Vozduk comes up or whether or not we get Seadra up or not won't actually affect our ability to do the +1 day.
Okay. More questions, Bill?
Yeah, Bill Harwood, CBS for Royce. Just another Vozduk question. I thought they were going to replace that with some hardware that's. What is the long-term plan for Vozduk? I know they spent quite a bit of time trying to get this thing running.
I actually don't know. I'll have to go look that one up for you. What they're doing now with Oleg and Alex is specifically what they've been trained to do, which is essentially what we're going to do with the Node 3 Seadra. As far as it's not a one-for-one comparison because they're obviously different hardware, but they're essentially doing an IFM to work on the pump, and they're also trying to bring up another bed in that to increase its efficiency. As far as replacing Vozduk, I'll have to look that up for you because I'm not sure what the plans are there.
Hi, Robert Perlman with CollectSpace.com. Just looking ahead, can you update us on where Discovery is with consumables? I know that you've already added a day. Is there any chance you'd be looking at another mission extension, another +1?
As far as the consumables on Discovery, and you guys keep asking me questions, and I think, I should have stopped and asked that question before I came over. I know Discovery has plenty of consumables for the +1 mission, plus the EOM +2 that we normally keep for being able to deal with weather at KSC. And beyond that, I would not be able to tell you what the consumable status on Discovery is. I'd have to. I don't want to get quote numbers and then get them wrong. So I'll have to get that number for you.
Okay, but is there any talk amongst the team about another extension for any reason in terms of staying at the station longer?
You know, we always try to protect for any docked cases that we might need to go do, but as far as an additional +1 day, there's been some conversation, but I was busy with my EVA today, and I haven't tracked where that all got, and whether or not we would add another dock day to the mission, I'm not sure.
Gina?
Gina Sinceri, ABC News. I was curious about Steve's camera. I think he went out the door with it not working, and then it suddenly started working. Is any clue to what the issue was?
Yeah, that's something we're still scratching our head about. We had the same signature on EVA-1, his wireless video system. didn't work for the beginning, and we did all the troubleshooting steps that we could think of, and then magically it started working again around 2 hours into the EVA, and we had the same scenario today. So not exactly sure what happened there, but something we're looking into.
Anything else here in Houston?
Well, just to follow up on Robert's question, Royce, if you did get a day, I'm assuming you could put that to good use with PMM unloading and outfitting. I mean, I would assume that would be what you would use an extra day for if you got one.
Yes, absolutely. If that came to pass, we would essentially use it for the same thing we've used the +1 day that's been added to the mission for. We would continue to transfer hardware out of the permanent multi-purpose module into the lab, strip it out of its containers, get all that into the HTV. So yes, that's what we would use it for.
Okay. I'm going to go to the phone bridge now, and we'll see if Marcia has a question. Marcia, can we hear you?
Yes, hi, I've got two questions. The Seadra in Node 3, I can't remember why it's down to begin with. Could you refresh my memory?
The Node 3 Seadra, all of the Seadras actually have the carbon dioxide removal beds in them. The ones in the Node 3 Seadra are what we call a -2 bed. And the one that we brought up in the mid-deck on this mission is a -3 bed, and it's really just an upgrade. But the -2 beds are getting close to their time on orbit when we track those things, and they're just like canisters that you have to change out after you've used them considerably. So the Node 3 Seadra has, we were intending to bring up a -3 bed and insert it into the Node 3 Seadra after the 133 mission, and then 134 was bringing up another -3 bed, and we were going to put that one in there as well. So what we'll wind up doing tomorrow is we'll go ahead and insert the -3 bed that we brought up in 133 into the Node 3 Seadra and run it with a -3 bed and a -2 bed to get that up and running tomorrow. But there's actually nothing wrong with it, and there's nothing wrong with the bed other than it's approaching the time when we should ought to change it out. We'll go ahead and get that running tomorrow, and probably leave it running until the end of the mission.
Great, thanks for that explanation. And now that the second spacewalk is over, do you feel like most of the major things have been accomplished on the shuttle mission, and that it's all downhill from now, so to speak?
I feel happy and contented, actually. I'm a happy flight director. All of our big objectives for the mission have been accomplished. We've installed the ELC, we've installed the PMM and activated it yesterday. That was beautiful to watch, all the robotics and all the structures and mechanisms and the outfitting and the vestibule outfitting, and that was just great. I loved all that. And then 2 days ago we conducted the first EVA, and that was flawless. Today we conducted the second EVA of the mission, and it was flawless, and we got a whole bunch of get-aheads, and I was very happy about that. The remainder of the mission, however, is just as important as all the stuff we've done, especially with the addition of the +1 day to the mission here to try to get the ISS in the best possible configuration we can get it in before 133 has to leave, and then HTV has to leave right after that. So we still have a lot of work to do in front of us. It's conceivably not as glamorous as installing modules and ELCs and doing spacewalks, but it is absolutely just as important to do all of those activities that are coming up for the remainder of the 133 docked mission.
Thank you, that's all.
Okay. Do we have any further questions here, Bill?
A very quick one for Royce. At the end of this EVA, you called Scott and had a little private talk. I don't suppose you'd tell us what that was about.
Sure. I just actually wanted to tag up with my commander because we've been so busy. We've been so busy recently, I haven't had a chance to talk to him. And I thought this was just a good opportunity where we're getting the crew out of their EMUs, and everybody was pretty much coming into some downtime. And I just took the opportunity to commandeer the space ground so I could chat with him for a little while, just ask him how everything was going, let him know how happy I was, how the mission was going, and he was very happy as well. And he was excited that the mission was going as well as it was, and that was really just, the increment lead flight director, Mike Lammers, talks to him every week. They have a sit-down conversation that I've been going to leading up to the mission here for quite a while now, so I can stay tagged up with the ISS commander. And we literally hadn't had a chance to talk to him in a while, so I commandeered the space ground and just chatted with him for a few minutes.
I think one more question from Rob.
Hi, Robert Perlman again with CollectSpace.com for Art. Just because there was a lot of these activities were categorized as get-aheads for today, I'm just curious, with the shuttle program coming to an end, how long is the list of get-aheads that remain that are outstanding, and are you near completion on that?
I don't have an exact number for you right now, but we definitely are whittling the list down, and it's getting much smaller with really one more shuttle flight full of EVAs left. I'm sure there's always going to be a list that's not zero, but we're definitely making some progress.
Okay. Any further questions here? Okay, with that, we'll wrap up this briefing. A few programming highlights. Of course, the space station crew and the shuttle crew getting ready to go to bed. The station crew was supposed to go to bed at 6:53 and the shuttle crew at 7:23 p.m. this evening Central Time. Our flight deck highlights are coming up at 8 p.m. Central, and then we'll have the International Space Station Flight Director update at 12:45 a.m. for those of you who want to stay up that late. And then the Discovery and Station crew are going to wake up at 3:23 a.m. and begin a half day of activities before they get some R&R time. With that, we'll close out today's briefing. Thank you for being here, and we'll go back to Mission Control.